Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing this Death and Taxes style list from Carroz that won a legacy challenge. Now, Death and Taxes has come a long way in relatively recent times because we're not taxing anyone. We are not doing that at all. We are very much a Phelia instead of a Thalia deck, if that makes sense to you. So this is a card that has changed this deck quite a bit. This is a way of getting additional value out of all the stuff in our deck. So we're trying to be a value deck rather than a taxing deck. Now obviously Death and Taxes has always had a lot of card advantage built into it with creatures that do stuff when they come in, but this is just taking it to the next level because the Phelia can make those creatures reuse their abilities and get many more uses out of them. So the main thing we want to be doing ideally is getting this overall the Balemurk down, and then we blink it with Phelia, then we have the creature, and then we just get to be drawing a card off of it every turn, and this is just returning a creature card from your creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. We don't have any planeswalkers, but the creatures we'll be returning could be things like Solitude and just lock our opponent out by removing their guys every turn, or just any of our other creatures. We have lots of creatures that do stuff when they come in, so we have Recruiter of the Guard, which can find anything we need. Flickerwisp, which can also be a way of flickering the Overlord, as well as all our other permanents. Stoneforge Mystic, with a relatively deep-looking equipment package. We've got Pre-War Formalwear, Kaldra, Phantom Blade, which you might not have seen. This is a 5 mana. When it enters, attach it up to one creature you control, destroy up to one other target creature. And a Lion Sash to curtail the opposing graveyards. We have Orcish Bowmasters, a good reason to be in black. We have the White Orchid Phantom to mess with people's lands. In a world of Eldrazi, this makes a lot of sense as well. We've got the Skyclave Apparition, just a really solid piece of removal that we can reuse, and we don't really care about the token too much. We can always blink out the token with a Phelia, so we kind of, not only do we make the Skyclave Apparition better with our Phelia, but then this also makes the tokens better for our opponent to have because we can just get rid of them, right? So it's just win-win right there. We have the Thoughtseize as well as a little bit of main deck hand disruption because we're a bit cold to combo, as you would expect with this deck. And then we've got 4 Aether Vials that we can use to cheat on mana and multi-spell in the sort of later turns when we're going to be having so much card advantage that we're going to want to multi-spell. Mana base wise, just a bunch of lands really here. We've got some Karakas, Wasteland, Shadowy Backstreet and Witch Enchanter, and that's going to be our interesting lands. Everything else is just stone cold mana making here. So we've got a bunch of basics, we got a few Scrublands, and then we just got fetches and a swamp. We are a Yorion deck. So that's one card down on our sideboard. The rest of our sideboard, we've got a Containment Priest, a nice thing to tutor for with a Recruiter of the Guard against certain decks. Deafening Silence, this is another piece of us trying to beat combo decks. Same with the Mindbreak Trap, same with the Grafdigger's Cage, pretty much same with the Disruptor Flute and the Fairy Macabre. So you're kind of getting a deal here. We're going to be grinding like the fair decks, and then we're going to have to try and rely on our sideboard for the unfair decks. We have a couple of Wrath of the Skies though, which can be an interesting way of sweeping a bunch of stuff up from our opponents, especially against all these decks that play out a bunch of artifacts early or have like a load of Urza Saga stuff going on. We can just say no to all that. So yeah, that's the list. There's been, I think, 4 top 8 finishes from this black and white Taxes deck since Aether Drift came out, so it's doing okay. So let's see how we get on with it today. Please remember to like and subscribe, and let's jam. If you want to play some Eternal Magic, why not check out the New York City first annual Eternal Team Trios Winter Tournament. This is a legacy, modern and vintage team event, and team events are always some of the best Magic events going, so why not check it out if you're in the area. Alright, we are on the play. Our hand is kind of calling out for some action here. Like, it's already a mulligan with a Kaldra in. We've got a lot of lands. Like, if we include this as a spell, we have 3 lands, an Aether Vial which doesn't impact the board, a Phelia, which is, you know, okay, and then a Kaldra. I don't think we can keep this. We need something that has a little bit more going for it. Okay, this has got more action. I will take this. I think we probably put back the Karakas here. We should be able to find a third land somewhere along the way. This probably has to get a non-basic though. But I think we're going to keep it like this. So we can lead off with a Marsh Flats, which can go and get us a Shadowy Backstreet to get us towards our third land as well, since we need to get non-basic anyway, because we want to have mana for the White Orchid Phantom and the Bowmasters off of it. So out comes the Marsh Flats. Our opponent probably knows what we're on already because we had to reveal the Yorion, and the Marsh Flats kind of tells them that we're most likely going to be Death and Taxes rather than the 5-colour Yorion control build. Alright, Agadeem the Undercrypt. So this is probably going to be Oops All Spells, and we have nothing for this. We can White Orchid Phantom this if they pass, but if they just go for it this turn, we've got 0 we can do about this. A Duress. Sure, you can have a look. Do they have a protected turn 1 kill? So they played both of these out to get around a Spell Pierce that we could have, just in case we are playing a blue deck. Oh, are they really not going on turn 1? Okay, that's something. We at least get to blow up their land here. So we're going to get the Shadowy Backstreets. They won't have any basics, so this White Orchid Phantom is just a strip mine. A Karakas, I don't think we need that right now. Like, I do like having the third land though. But what would I rather draw? Graveyard Hate. If this third land lets us get some Graveyard Hate. Alright, I'll leave that on top just because we will need it for the turn after, if there is another turn. If they couldn't go off with this 2 mana, I doubt they're going to be able to go off next turn. So we might buy ourselves another turn, which we can use the Recruit of the Guard to go and find some Graveyard Hate. Lion Sash is all we have, Graveyard Hate-wise, in the main deck. A Bog. Tapped or untapped? Opponent? Untapped. Okay, so we're probably dead. This makes me think they have 1 Spirit Guide in hand. Undercity Informer. Do you have the mana to fire this off now? I think they have to if they're playing into a deck that's known for having lots of removal. Right, there it is. So they're going to mill over the whole deck. The Narcomoobs are going to jump out, and then they can Cabal Therapy us, get some zombies on Poxwalkers back, and then use the creatures they have to go and get their Dread Return working on the Narcomoob. Let's have a look. I'm going to pop out their list just so I can... Okay, so I have Disciple of Frail Eyes, which this means they're going to have things like Force of Vigor in their sideboard. That's kind of the main distinction between the 2 primary builds of this deck right now. So what they do is that all these Narcomoobs jump out, they have the Dread Return, they get to bring back the Oracle. So we're looking for a few little things in here. So Jack-O-Lantern. Do they have a Jack-O-Lantern here? They should do, but I can't see one. They have 1 card in hand. Do they have a Memory's Journey? If they don't have Memory's Journey or Jack-O-Lantern in the deck here, then that means they're not in their main deck at all. Okay. I can't see a Reanimate either, which is an interesting one. Okay, so that is the game. But they're on a slightly different build to what most people are on. This means our Graveyard Hate is potentially a little bit better. So we have Cages, we have Fairy Macabre, Disruptor Flute doesn't hurt, Deafening Silence, Containment Priest, Mindbreak Trap. Like, we basically just want all of the stuff here. Don't want a Solitude over the Plows. We definitely don't need Aether Vials, because there's no point ticking this up, because the game's over way before that matters. Stoneforge Mystic tutors for our Graveyard Hate. That is fine. Phantom Blade, probably not doing very much here. I don't really want to be drawing that. Pre-War Formalwear maybe helps us out if they like Thoughtseize away a piece of Graveyard Hate. We can bring it back with Pre-War Formalwear. Overlord of the Balemurk is kind of slow here. Although, if we play this, it does let us dig for the Fairy Macabre. So I think we have to keep those in. The Skyclave's not the most exciting here. I think, just trying to work out what we're keeping. I think the Plows are better than the Solitudes in a lot of ways. But we want to be able to kill their guy if they play it out, like the Undercity Informer without the mana. They shouldn't do that, but if they do, we need to be able to capitalise on it. So we got the Pre-War Formalwear, we got the Lion Sash. Do we need Kaldra? I don't think we need Kaldra actually in this matchup. It gets us back a Solitude. Maybe we'll strip out the Skyclaves for the Solitudes here. Just because these are things that we can technically win the game with, whilst they also can remove it. Whereas Source of Plowshares doesn't win us the game, but kills their little guy. Alright, this is obviously going to be a pretty horrible matchup. We're an 80 card deck, so chances of us hitting our sideboard cards are a lot less. And they go pretty fast. Okay, so we might be able to get them with a Mindbreak Trap. We also have a Thoughtseize. This seems fine. Not great, but fine. This finds us Graveyard Hate in a couple of turns. This can find us Graveyard Hate as well. We have to make a decision as well whether we want to try and hit the Fairy Macabre off of the Overlord or hit the guaranteed Lion Sash. But then we have to wait a turn before we can deploy the Sash and use it. I guess we'll see what we draw and see if that changes our perspective. But we've got a turn 1 Thoughtseize on the play against a combo deck. That's fine. I can live with this. Alright, Thoughtseize. Show me what my opponent's working with. So they have a Thoughtseize. Okay, they've gone down the Bowmasters route. That's interesting. They have 2 lands, so we can't stop that. Do I care about this Thoughtseize more than I care about anything else here? Don't really care about the Bowmasters, to be honest. The Dark Ritual means they have Bowmasters and Thoughtseize if they want it next turn. I think we're just going to take the Thoughtseize. So this Mindbreak Trap probably not working if they've gone into a fair plan. But we have lots of stuff that's good against fair plans anyway. We can just grind out the game. This means we're probably looking at trying to Stoneforge Mystic. Now they obviously are going to have their combo still in. They've just kind of gone down on some of the combo elements. So I think that means it's better for us to get the Stoneforge and get something rolling. Although we can do like Overlord into Recruiter, Phelia type stuff. Which one is this? Felmire. Sure. Flooded Strand. Does that make any difference for us right now? Guarantees us the 3rd mana for the Recruiter. I think I'm actually going to go for the Overlord here. Is that right? Kind of feels like a somewhat big decision. So if we get the Overlord down, we can start ripping through our deck, and then we can just blink it next turn, or the turn after, I suppose, because we have to then recruit it for it. This just gets us Lion Sash. Okay, I think I'm just going to get the Lion Sash. We're not under pressure. The one thing that does beat us right now is the Graveyard combo that our opponent can have. So let's just try and shut that down. Lion Sash. Wouldn't actually be terrible to have the Kaldra in this situation, just so we can close the door. Alright, a Lotus Petal. I suspect we're going to see one of their lands come down and play the Bowmaster. Another Felmire. We have 1 mystery card in hand, a Dark Ritual. Sure, this is spell number 2. This is spell number 3, so I will exile this with our Mindbreak Trap. So now we know the 2 cards in our opponent's hand. They can Orcish Bowmaster if they wish. Disruptive Flute. Okay, so we hold up the flutes. If they play another Understatement Form, we can flash this in response. Otherwise, we can just get the Sash in. And we also get a little Surveil for good measure as well this turn. Okay, so we are in an awkward spot here, because if we play out this Disruptive Flute, if we play out this Lion Sash, then our opponent will be able to Bowmasters our Sash straight away. So I think we deploy this Disruptive Flute and see if our opponent responds with the Orcish Bowmasters. They did not. Interesting. Am I just taking out this Orcish Bowmasters so that our Lion Sash can live? Or are we just ignoring the Orcish Bowmasters and naming Undersea Informer? I think that's actually what we're doing here, isn't it? Let's go and get our Surveil land. Maybe because of this Bowmaster we're supposed to go down the Balemurk route. We don't need another Balemurk. We can always get this one back. This gives us a creature in the graveyard so that our Lion Sash can win through the Bowmaster. So is it more important for us to get this Lion Sash on board or to get this Balemurk right? I think it's more important to get the Lion Sash on board. So we're going to go for an end of turn Lion Sash with 2 activations up. Alright, they're just doing this now, are they? That's A-okay with me. How many activations do I think we need if they're going to combo us? Possibly 2. So I don't think we play it in here to dodge a second Bowmasters. There is an option there. We can play it, grow it by 1 so it doesn't get killed by a Bowmaster's ping if they have another one. But if they go for... like, we can just take damage from these. Whereas if they go for a combo kill, we want to have as many options as possible. Seems weird to use them like this when they know we have the Lion Sash that they want to ping down. Right, let's just get another Shadowy Backstreet. A Phelia, yes please. Okay, so now we have the Phelia or the Sash. We could have put the Sash in at the end there. Just curious what our opponent has in hand. So if they're playing this out, okay. This is a little bit on the awkward side. Like, we're going to lose some stuff here, but it doesn't really matter what they take because we go and get it back with the Overlord of the Balemurk anyway. I think I put in the Lion Sash now. Because if they combo this turn, we have 2 activations of the Sash. So if they take the Phelia... so they have to take the Overlord, really. Because the Overlord gets back a creature from our graveyard. So we just get back the Phelia and we're just in it then. So I think that's the best way to break this up. But then obviously we still end up with Phelia, Recruiter of the Guard nonsense. Which is a lot. They went for the Recruiter. I guess that does find us a Fairy Macabre if that's what they're worried about. Now there are 2 creatures. We can activate this at end step. And then if they try and Bowmasters it, we activate it again. It does cost us these 2 creatures in our graveyard, but Overlord and Phelia should do enough work here to win the game in a fair fashion. We do still have a Yorion waiting in the wings. If they attack, I'll take it. Right, let's get rid of this Recruiter. And now this is safe. I don't want to activate it. Let's send in the Overlord. We're going to pop our graveyard out since it's going to be a relatively important zone now. Yes, I would like this Recruiter of the Guard, please. And then we can just sit here for another turn and then flash in the Phelia at end step, and then we're just living the dream at that point. I think we have the screws in enough that our opponent is unlikely to best us. They can just turn 1 combo us in game 3 though. Right, in comes the Phelia. Okay, I think we attack with the Phelia here. Should we have reconfigured first? Maybe. Let's blink this Overlord. Like, if they double block here, we just get the Phelia back when our Overlord comes back, so it doesn't really matter. So in the end step, the Phelia trigger happens, Overlord comes back, we mill over, we bring back the Phelia. So we get to hold up more mana, which I think is probably the safest bet. The Deafening Silence doesn't actually matter right now against our opponent. It's a thing that we want early on, so our opponent doesn't just play a bunch of Acceleration and go, but now they have all the mana they want. The first spell they want to play is a creature, and then they play 1 sorcery. So Deafening Silence doesn't matter here. Just going to hold up as much of our mana as we can. Go our Lion Sash. Beat our opponent down. Goblin Charbelcher. Okay, they've fully pivoted out, have they? That's pretty good. Do they have a Dark Ritual as well? A Narcomoeba. Okay, that is better for us than a Dark Ritual. Just going to get the Phelia down. Let's exile their Bowmasters. Let's exile our Stoneforge Mystic. So what we really need to do here is... Actually, no, it's fine. This attacks. This brings back the Skyclave when we kill their thing, right? Because this is on attacks. Okay, so we can attack. Would I like to blink here? Does it matter? We can blink this Disruptor Flute. It just gives us another answer to this, but I don't think we necessarily need to do that if we're going to answer this anyway. Sure, I'll blink out Stoneforge. So we'll mill over, get the Skyclave. Skyclave deals with the Charbelcher. And then our opponent is dead on our following turn. We have 1 mana available to interact with their graveyard, which should hopefully be enough. We're going to win on turn 9 versus Oops All Spells. Could happen. We'll get back to Pre-War Formalwear. This can be additional copies of... I guess we don't have another Skyclave Apparition in the graveyard yet. Alright, we won the game. Now our opponent gets to kill us on turn 1. We saw a little bit of a pivot there, which means I kind of want these Skyclaves back in. Possibly over a couple of Solitudes. Alright, we'll try this. We have only 2 Myrick Traps to stop our opponent killing us on turn 1. Our opponent's deck goes off on turn 1 a decent chunk of the time. They did see a Mindbreak Trap, so maybe they're going to play a little bit slower, which then can enable us to drop something like a cage. I suspect our opponent is going to be more on the Oops plan rather than the slower plan of like the Charbelcher and stuff. Charbelcher is slower, but it has no dependency on the graveyard. So there's definitely pros and cons to it. It's also more interactable for us. Do I think a single Thoughtseize is good enough to beat our opponent's deck? If they keep a 7, because they choose first, then I think we have to mulligan this. Like, this is also a Thoughtseize we can't cast. Oh, we can, sorry. We have Scrubland and Shadowy Backstreet. So we can cast this on 1. And then we find some graveyard hate on 2. They've mulliganed. We need to find something a little bit more juicy. What does this do? This is a turn 1 Deafening Silence. And then we need lands to do anything else. But we have a Charbelcher answer. We have Graveyard Hate. Is this good enough? I don't think we showed them the Deafening Silence. This hand relies on us to draw a land in the first 2 turns. And just sort of hope that the Deafening Silence keeps our opponent at bay. Is that good enough? Now, we do have like their other stuff covered. Like, this matchup is terrible anyway, so... I guess we don't need the Stoneforge since we already have the Sash. We dead on turn 1? Did our choices make a difference? They're paying life, so we're probably dead. Or they're going to Thoughtseize away our best card. Or they're just going to pass the turn. That is peculiar. Do they have like an Entomb Reanimate plan? I'm just trying to think why they would pay the life for this. Do they just see it as not mattering and they want us to think about something perhaps? Maybe they've got a Dismember or something in case we played the creature they cared about. Alright, so we're into tap land status here. That's good news for us. Would like a black mana, but we don't have that. How much are we supposed to play around our opponent having access to an Orcish Bowmasters? Pinging down our Lion Sash is definitely a pain for us. Or we can just jam this Phelia next turn and hope to draw into a black source next turn. I think we should just get the Sash down. If they have the Bowmasters, it's irritating. But I think our opponent might have boarded out of that because the Bowmaster was decidedly bad against us. Like, the one situation where it's good is where our Lion Sash is hang out like this. If they play a Bowmasters, at least they're not killing us this turn. And if we lose the Sash, we can always get Pre-War Formalwear, which then gets back the Sash. An untapped land. It's probably bad news for us. 3 mana, Undercity Informer. Do they have a Spirit Guide? No. Okay, it's just saying there's a chance here. We have 2 white mana to funnel into this. I think that's all we get to do this turn. Because our opponent is threatening to combo us. They didn't show us the Memory's Journey line with game 1 when we saw the whole deck, which is normally a main deck thing where you have the Jack-o'-lantern, so any excess mana you have goes through the Jack-o'-lantern in your graveyard and you get to sort of tee off. So they attack for 2. That's fine. We can take this damage. We can play a Phelia. And we're still committing to the board here. And we are winning this race. How do I feel about an Orcish Bowmasters? Orcish Bowmasters kills our Sash anyway. I'm just going to do this. Phelia can blink this because this grows the Phelia. We're just going to hold up our white mana. We're winning the race. We just don't need to lose to this graveyard. If we can remove this Undercity Informer, I think it might be worth doing. Like, I'd like to hit it with a Solitude so it doesn't cost us our mana though. Just having a little fair beatdown. That is their one non-creature spell for the turn. Which means they are almost certainly not going to activate their Undercity Informer right now. They could play like the Balustrade Spy and just target us with it. Once again, we'll blink our Deafening Silence and we're just getting more and more power in play. Another white source. I'll pass it over. Nature's Claim. Okay. So that's what they were worried about. I guess maybe there's multiple things they're worried about. Like they need to be able to like kill our Sash or disrupt our Sash and then go for the grave. I'm surprised they didn't just point it at the Sash though. It feels like this is the thing that is stopping them more than our Deafening Silence was. But obviously we can't see our opponent's hand. We don't know their exact list. A Dark Ritual. That is step 1, isn't it? A Balustrade Spy. Who are you targeting? Targeting themselves. So they're going for it here with 1 mana floating. So always going to jump out. Did they have a... we didn't see any Poxwalkers before, so there's no Poxwalkers. So these all come out. They have 1 mana available. We wait till they do something targeting the Thassa's Oracle. Can't see any Bridge from Belows. Just on the 4 Narcomoebas. Now they are putting up some amount of damages here. But their library is empty. I would like to exile this Thassa's Oracle with my Lion Sash, please. So this has no targets, so that fizzles. And our opponent dies next turn. Right, we'll just exile some creatures while we're here. Make our Sash bigger. I don't think I've missed anything here, right? Looks like our opponent's died. So we'll take out an Narcomoeba. This way we are guaranteed to hit our opponent for 4, which means they can't use an untapped land, if that's a thing that is even relevant. I don't think it is. I think our opponent just dies in their draw step, because they draw from an empty library. We just leave open all this white mana, and somehow we might have gotten there. Yes, okay, they didn't have anything. Very weird that they Nature's Claimed our Deafening Silence rather than the Lion Sash. If they Nature's Claimed the Lion Sash there, then they can just activate the Undercity Informer and cast the Dread Return. We got nothing. Like, I think they just threw that game and we had it. Sorry, they had it and we just capitalised on their mistake, really. Intriguing. Alright, let's go to round 2. Into round 2, we got a little bit of disruption for their mana base. If they're a creature deck, we're going to slaughter them. If they're a combo deck, we're going to lose to them anyway, and maybe Orcish Bowmasters is actually a relevant card against them if they're doing like Echo Vion stuff. So yeah, this hand seems fine to me. We get to play on basics as well, which is always reassuring. Our deck doesn't have a Flagstones in, which is something you quite often see in decks with White Orchid Phantom, because you can hit your own land and basically use it like a rampant growth. Stalactite Stalker, you say? Been a hot minute since I've seen one of these. So I could be looking at something Death Shadowy. Okay, I'm going to go and fetch for a Plains now. I don't know if they're going to be running Stifle, I doubt it, but we may as well play around it because we're going to be getting this white source anyway. Now, I'm not going to play around Stifle unless it's completely free to do so for us. Do I care enough about this creature? Let's see if they play a follow-up creature. A Brainstorm, sure. So Stalactite Stalker is going to grow. I'm okay taking this little extra chunk of damage from a Stalactite Stalker to make sure that we are hitting something better if they play something better. So they could be doing something like cycling a Street Wraith and reanimating, and I'd much rather hit Street Wraith, I think, since they'll be unblockable, whereas this one just has Menace. We'll see. If our opponent doesn't play anything... Watery Grave, yeah. So Death Shadow means our Source of Plowshares are very high stakes. Okay, so with this trigger on, I think I will kill the Stalactite Stalker now. This could be dazed, but if this gets dazed, then our Bowmaster is more likely to resolve and kill off the Delver, which is how I'd like to progress with this game. So we have another Plow. So I'd very much like to resolve this Orcish Bowmasters, please. Right, they're cycling the Street Wraith, because that suggests to me they don't have an answer in hand. Right, so then we get to take out the Delver. So we use the Plow as a bit of a bait spell, so now we have a Bowmaster against the blue deck, and we have a Stalker that they can pay 3 mana to kill our Bowmaster. They didn't have 3 mana for a little while. They're taking damage, that's fine. If they play out a Death Shadow, then we just get a really nice 2-for-1 where we Plow this, and then the Shadow dies because their life is too high. Being a white deck against a Death Shadow deck is certainly a place to be. It's like either you want to be that or have Grave of the Burnwillers in your deck, because that really annoys them. I'm not going to double block here, we're just going to take 3. They're not going to have any reach, so we can take in some hits and piecemeal our life total out. It's not like we're playing against a red deck we have to worry about lightning bolts. Another plow. Yeah, pretty happy to see that one. What do I want to do here? Do I want to wasteland my opponent? Like, I think we want to get the Overlord of the Balemurk going. Which probably means we play out the Prismatic Vista. I guess there's no 1-drops that this can find for us. We don't have 1-drop creatures in our deck. So we could just play out the Wasteland and then cast the Balemurk, but I don't really want our opponent to know that we have that. So let's go for Big Daddy Balemurk. Alright, we're in with the Balemurk. Now they can interfere with this by bouncing it on the turn it gets ready to attack. What has it found us? A Skyclave Apparition or a Solitude? I'll take a Solitude here. I'm unsure if we want to get damage in there because our opponent is a Death Shadow deck. I can take another 3, that's fine. We don't need to play around days anymore. Sorry, we don't need to play into days anymore. We can just continue doing our thing. Planes here. They're going to attack. Yeah, we'll attack this time. Like, if they have a Bowmaster, they kill our Bowmaster anyway. I think I'm just going to get the Flickerwisp in this turn. Just get the Balemurk as a real creature. This forces interaction from our opponent if they have it. Otherwise, we end up with a massive creature and a card advantage engine, and our opponent is just going to be in the dirt. What we got here? A Daze. Right, so we're already getting a card out of this because we can pay for this Daze. Do they have a secondary Daze? They do. Okay, that's fine. I think the plan here is to take 3 from this creature and then plow it. If we can use our Solitude as a creature and removal spell, that's just going to be extra good for us. So we'll take another 3. We've got 7 life to work with. That's loads. A Delver of Secrets. Okay. Creature with reach. That's something. Creature of the Guard. Right, I think we're going to plow this Stalactite Stalker. I'm going to plow this Delver of Secrets. We still have another answer for Death Shadow. Go to attacks. I don't actually think I want to wasteland my opponent here. I want to have the mana to hardcast a Solitude, so I'm not going to wasteland right now. Our opponent hasn't been doing anything on the mana they've had for a while. So I think they've just got a bunch of reactive stuff. So there's the Death Shadow. Only 3/3. An Orcish Bowmasters. Right, I'm going to Recruiter, I think. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. We can chump block the Shadow. What would I like here? I quite like a Witch Enchanter just so we have the land, to be honest. That seems alright. We could get a Skyclave Apparition and just get a removal spell we can cast around days, though. That also sounds very good. We could get the Phelia and start going and doing that sort of stuff. But I think if we just get the Skyclave here, and then the plan for next turn is to Skyclave, and then afterwards we can just work towards having our Yorion, which we haven't used yet, but it's coming eventually. Like, this is going to be a real creature soon, and then our opponent's going to have a real bad time. Like, we will have the mid to late game. We just need to make sure we get there. So I think playing a little bit more cautiously. So we've got a white card if we need to emergency pitch to Solitude. We've got a removal spell that is around days. We can chump block here. Orcish Army doing exactly what it needs to do here. Going under the bus. I suspect some of the cards in their hands are cantrips. Now they could like cast a cantrip and just use it so that if we ping them, they grow their Shadow. They could have done that before they played the Shadow. Okay, not a giant lover of this one, but I think we just probably end up Bowmastering this one and chump blocking the Shadow again. Force of Will. Okay. Does that change anything here? It means we could take 3 damage this turn, but our opponent's on no cards. Next turn we have the Balemurk up and running. And then we just get to like Solitude our opponent every turn. Fatal Push is what they've put in. Interesting. Okay. So that's what they're going to have for this turn. This feels like a mistake to me. Alright, they can only attack with the Insectile Aberration here. They know we've got this Solitude, and I'm certainly just going to snap off this thing. Yeah, so they're doing the correct attack. We'll just get this Skyclave down, get rid of the Delver, because the evasion is more annoying than anything else. I can attack with the Balemurk and get back a Skyclave if I want to here. Or a Solitude is fine too. I'll take a Skyclave. I'll take the damage here. We'll chump block with an emergency Solitude. Because if they have anything, that'll be the only card they have in hand. And then our Solitude can just rinse through them. Not even attacking. 1 card in hand. I don't really want to cast this Thoughtseize. I'm just going to cast this Skyclave. And our opponent lets us have the game. Yeah. So this is exactly the sort of matchup we want to play into. Do we need anything here? The only thing here that I like potentially is Wrath of the Skies. That is something that I am moderately interested in. However, do we have any cards that are bad in this matchup? Source to Plowshares, absolute banger. I guess Thoughtseize is probably the worst card here, isn't it? Thoughtseizes gets us 2 Wrath of the Skies, which can clean up all their 1-drops, because they're a very 1-drop centric deck. And then, do I even like these Thoughtseizes enough? Do I want to have like some flutes or something? Probably not. Do I want Fairy Macabre just because it can block flyers and maybe they have a graveyard sub-theme with cycling Street Wraiths or cycling Trolls and getting back stuff? We could flash in a Containment Priest to maybe get one of their Orcish Bowmasters. I'm just not really a fan of these Thoughtseizes. What do I want instead? To have a white card and just a Fairy Macabre, I guess. I think that's slightly better than having Thoughtseizes. I wouldn't fault someone for keeping in 2 Thoughtseizes. I'm not enamoured by them, to be honest. This matchup is slow enough as well that our Aether Vials are must-answer cards that we then can leverage. And our opponent is not in colours that's going to deal with them unless they have a Powder Keg. Okay, we have a removal spell that is a little bit costly. We have some graveyard stuff I'm not really into. I think we can do better than this. This is definitely needing additional mana, isn't it? We have 2 draw steps to find a land. Exposed to Wasteland, we do have a removal spell. I'm going to keep this and get rid of the Balemurk because we don't have any black mana as of yet. Alright, we can use 3 of the cards in our hand. Alright, Arid Mesa. What a draw. Always had it. So this can become a Shadowy Backstreet. That gives us black mana as well as filtering. We already have it on basic, so I don't think there's any point playing on basics here if we can avoid it. Because if we play on a basic here, then this just gets wasted and we're still down mana. Just we at least get to fix our mana, and if we have a Wasteland, we end up with the same amount of mana we would have had. Now this is worse into double Wasteland, but I think when we're keeping a 1-lander, we're just not going to play into... we're just going to hope we don't play into double Wasteland. A Thoughtseize. Sure, that's pretty good. They took our Recruiter, that's interesting. This 1 mana open suggests to me that our opponent is holding up a Fatal Push. So they're trying to play a more control-y route on this game. I should play the land that they've seen. I think I'll do that. So we're just not going to play into this Fatal Push. We can Containment Priest in our opponent's next turn. It's just going to be cycling a Troll. Just a little brainstorm. Is now the time where I want to Containment Priest if we're going to be doing that anyway? I don't think so. We can plow around a days if we hold this mana up. We're not in a rush here. The longer this game goes, the better it is for us. So we just need to keep punting this game down the road until we're... Not punting as in making mistakes. Punting as in punting like a boat. Apologies. But yeah, we just need to keep pushing this game down the road until we win the game, basically. Am I interested in Containment Priest here? I don't hate it. I don't think this card is very good in the matchup. I don't know if our opponent has the stuff to deal with it, but we can start making inroads on our opponent's life total if we wish. Some decks are definitely a lot more scared of Death Shadow. We are just totally fine with Death Shadow as a creature. So this is going to go and get us Pre-War Formalwear. So we can get back our Recruiter. Or get back to Stoneforge if they decide to fail push it. Consign to Memory. Okay. So they traded for like half a card. Like we ended up with a 1-2, which isn't the most impressive thing. But we have loads of ways of blinking this and getting more value out of it later on. So that's an okay trade for us there. Their deck has a real tough time against Kaldra as well. They're going to fatal push our Containment Priest, or are they cycling something? Who knows? So there's this fatal push that we saw before. So we got 2 for 1 off our Stoneforge Mystic. That is some pretty glorious value already. We can see a Ponder or Brainstorm here. Right, let's get some more Shadowy Backstreet action. Don't think our opponent is running... Ooh, a Wasteland. I enjoy a Wasteland here. I don't think our opponent is running the Harbinger of the Seas. Alright, so let's Wasteland. Put this Yorion Sky Nomad into our hand. Let's take our opponent off of Underground Sea, is fine. Like, if they're going to be bouncing a land, we might as well make it hurt them. Obviously, they want to lower their life total, but we don't care about the Death Shadow. So the thing that they're lowering their life total for is kind of irrelevant to us. So we just want to get the beatdowns coming. Alright, they've spent a while going backwards and forwards on whether or not they wanted to cast this Brainstorm. Are they going to be Brainstorm locked? Are they going to find a fetch? Just crash in for a bit. This turns on Death Shadows as a thing they can cast. But we do have 2 answers for Death Shadow in our hand. Paying some life. This feels like a Death Shadow turn. Just a Ponder. Okay. Maybe they're looking for protection because they know we have ways of answering it. So they're trying to find something that they can use to stick their shadow. So here is a shadow, another Solitude. Alright, let's cast this Source to Plowshares. This is worth a Force of Will to your opponent. Puts them back up to 13. We don't have a third Shadowy Backstreets. So this is on finding basic land duty. I guess we can find a Scrubland, but I think at this point we might as well just get a Plains just in case. It's a Death Shadow. It's only a little baby one. 4 cards in hand though. We've got a lot to work through on our opponent's stuff, but their deck has a lot of air in it as well. Whereas ours is just all like guys really. I wouldn't mind drawing another land here. Start hard casting these Solitudes. Although we haven't given our opponent much in the way of daze targets. Stalactite Stalker. Cycling that Street Wraith. So this is going to grow the Stalker. A Pre-War Formalwear, you say? I would like to cast this Pre-War Formalwear, please. Wait, this is really bad, isn't it? Because this doesn't actually get our creature back. Whoops. We're getting bodied by our own guy here, aren't we? Oh, that is a big spew from us there. I'm not going to kill my own Containment Priest to make this work. We just wasted our turn there. That was really shameful. Oh dear, oh dear. We could have just waited a turn, chumped with the Containment Priest, and then Pre-War Formalwear. Yeah, that was really loose. So now we've also exiled the creature we clicked as well. I guess we just take this for now. We could block the Death Shadow, wait till this grows up, and then kill this and try and take out both creatures. But I think I'm okay just taking a little bit of damage here. If our opponent goes hard into it, we can always just Solitude pitching Yorion. And that sloppy play might cost us this one. Alright. Are they going to... They're not amping the damage by cracking this fetch land. They're not even growing their Stalker. Okay, I'm pretty happy to have this Skyclave Apparition. And we probably get rid of just the Death Shadow here. We've got a Consign to Memory here. Better they use that against this than a Solitude, I think. And we can keep these both back. We can do a double block on this. When we Yorion, we will get to blink the Pre-War Formalwear, so it being in play isn't completely irrelevant. Yorion plus Containment Priest is also a number. I need to make sure I don't cast this while the Containment Priest is around. Right, no play from our opponent. They're just growing the Stalker, so they can use this to kill something. Right, we'll just sit here and hold. We can flash in Solitudes if we need to. If our opponent's not attacking us, then that's fine. We can wait until we draw a land to play around days. And Orcish Bowmasters. Not a thing I care about a great deal. No, the 1/1 bodies aren't doing anything. We don't draw extra cards. Alright. I'm going to offer this double block and see what our opponent's trick is. I'm going to push one of our guys, presumably. Right, this looks like a Dismember. So now I'm going to go get a basic Plains. Actually, this one gets a Swamp and the other one gets a basic Plains, I think is actually the correct choice. Solitude. You got daze their opponent. We haven't given them a lot of good daze targets, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there it is. That just paves the way for our next turn of doing this. But this does save us some life this turn. New Illusion token. Not seen this one before. Right, you've got 2 cards in hand. Would like a land so the Solitude can do its work. Murktide. It's a Murktide. Pretty big. 1 card in our opponent's hand. Is it daze? We can play around it being daze. We can go and get another Solitude here, but that doesn't leave us in a very good position to actually win the game. I think we just have to hard cast this. I guess we could... I'm just trying to work out. If we hard cast this, then they probably can Stalactite Stalker to remove it down the stretch. I think we're just going to cast this while our opponent doesn't have any mana available and only 1 card in hand. The last card in hand is daze. That is unfortunate for us. But I think if we just recruit of the guard and just spend our entire hand to just kill this Murktide Regent, then we're not going to get anywhere. So we kill this. They can attack us for 3 life if they wish. But we can Pre-War Formalwear, blink gets the Skyclave back. I think they just attack for 3 here. Curious to see if they want to sacrifice. I think if we cast the Yorion, they will sacrifice this to kill the Solitude. A Stalactite Stalker, sure. So now they don't get to do that. That's pretty good news for us. Is it more important for me to get 3 life here or to get a guaranteed Solitude trigger? I think it's the guaranteed Solitude trigger, isn't it? Okay, so now we just... Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. It was fine last time. What could possibly go wrong this time? They had the same amount of mana open last time as well. So we get 2 removal spells off here in the end step. And then we have the Karakas so we can loop the Yorion when we need to. We're getting consigned to Memory here. We are getting consigned to memory. Okay, so that is an absolute disaster. Okay, so if they attack with everything, we block here, we take 3, 4, 5, 6. So our opponent should have lethal if they can see it. Ugh, that was a bit awkward for us. I think the play where we played out our Pre-War Formalwear, I don't necessarily think that was what entirely cost us the game, but it certainly made things more difficult. So yes, they attack with everything, so we die here. Yuck, disgusting. Unhappy about how that one turned out. Okay. I'm not convinced on this Containment Priest. We haven't seen the stuff that makes me want that. Maybe we don't need the Pharaoh card. We will have the Thoughtseizes now they're on the play. Can try that. We can bring in Disruptor Flute just for the consigned to memory, but I think that's fine as is. Alright. I think we are very good in this matchup. I was a bit cavalier, I think, than I needed to be. Okay. Turn 1, Aether Vial is pretty solid here. We don't have bags of removal here, but our opponent's deck isn't the fastest. I guess they do have 8 1-drops, actually. It is faster than your typical Death Shadow build, actually. Alright, let's get it. This is a must-answer spell for our opponent. Alright, so now we just have a nice mana advantage going forwards. It's not going to do anything until turn 2. Or, sorry, until turn 3, but that's fine. We're going to see a Delver here. That's probably the best thing our opponent can play right now. I guess the Stalk is also fine here and can scale up over time. Depends what their hand looks like. An Engineered Explosives, X equals 1. Okay. They do have an answer for this. And Marsh Flats. Is it more important for me? I think I just want to get... Do I want to get the Phelia going, or do I just want to Thoughtseize my opponent? I think I want to Thoughtseize my opponent. I think that's actually the play here. Then we know what permission we're trying to get through. Double Days... Delver of Secrets, Dismember, Brainstorm. Okay, so what do I want to do here? Now we have a lot of removal for Murktide Regent in our deck. We obviously have to get there though. These dazes are kind of annoying. I don't think we're taking a daze though. We could take a Brainstorm, just so we know the information our opponent has, or we can take the Murktide Regent. I think those are the two options here. Knowing what we're playing around is pretty useful. The Phelia can also blink the Murktide and reset its power and toughness. I think it's the Brainstorm. Leave our opponent with fewer lands to work with. The Brainstorm is quite likely to find more lands. And just assume that in our deck full of answers from Murktide Regent, we'll find one. Thoughtseize off the top is very good for our opponent here. They should get rid of the Phelia. Or the... No, it should be the Overlord, right? Because if they don't take the Overlord, when we play the Overlord, it gets back the Phelia. So that's something I need to break up here. And the Overlord is the best way of doing that. The Vial is going to go up to 2. They're not going to be able to pop the explosives this turn. So we're going to be able to get a uncounterable Phelia going. Which can also then reset the Engineered Explosives on the following turn. They did take the Overlord, which is the correct one. So yes to this. Another Aether Vial. Intriguing. Alright, let's do a Surveil Land. Another Phelia. Do I need another Phelia? I don't think we do. Am I playing out this Aether Vial right now? I don't think so. So we could keep the Phelia with the intention of our first Phelia getting dismembered here. But the problem with doing that is Phelia isn't really what we want on this board. We need something to go with Phelia before Phelia becomes good. I drew a Delver. That's pretty tasty. Let's get this Phelia in. So now we have the ability to Skyclave or Overlord the Balemurk. We can't get that in through these dazes, unfortunately. So I think the play here is we go put in the Skyclave. Skyclave gets rid of the Engineered Explosives. And we attack with the Phelia. We blink the Skyclave. They get a 0/0 that dies. They can block here if they want, or they can lose it to our Phelia and to our Skyclave. And then we can deploy this Aether Vial. One mystery card here. We will need to find an answer to this Murktide Regent at some point. But we did make choices so that would happen. Okay, so they're going to get rid of our Fatal Push. Sorry, they're going to Fatal Push our creature instead of dismembering it. So we can play the Balemurk around the days if we want to. So this is... The first one is the one we want to put a counter on. Okay. We say no to the second one. Although we could up this till we get to Balemurk, but I think we say no to this for now. Right, let's impending this one. They have 1 daze, they don't have 2 dazes because they only have 1 land. And then we go and get the Phelia. We could get the White Orchid Phantom and just try and dome our opponent's lands, but I think the Phelia is just the correct choice here. The synergy there is good. We could have Shadowy Backstreeted first to put another creature in, but we're just doing the whole Death and Taxes thing now. So next turn this goes up to 2. I found another land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they can play a Murktide Regent here. It will be pretty large. It will be a 3-turn clock. So we will have to Phelia and get rid of that somehow. I suspect that's what's happening here. So we have Stoneforge and we have Phelia, both of which are pretty good. Right, so here comes the Murktide. Are we going to be punished for taking that Brainstorm early? Like, we stunted our opponent's growth in this game a lot by hitting that Brainstorm. Like, our opponent was struggling for mana for a long time. So I think it ended up being the right decision. I'm going to say yes to both, I think. And start working towards the end game of our Yorion. Alright, let's cast this Stoneforge Mystic. We'll get this Phantom Blade, I think, is the one. So this forces a removal spell out of our opponent's hand. They have to dismember our Stoneforge Mystic here, which means they can't dismember our Phelia. It's actually going to be quite a tight game, I think. Ponder, not bad one for our opponent to have. Now we still have this information about these cards in our hand, and we're currently just making these dazes rot away. Phantom Blade is something we need to put in with the Stoneforge. We can blink the Overlord to get back the Stoneforge to then Phantom Blade. There's a lot of hoops to go through, but they need to kill this with a dismembered right now, because if we untap, then we kill their Murktide unless they have a consigned to memory. It's a bit of a case of what are they most scared of over there. We also can put Urine into hand and just blink a bunch of stuff next turn as well, but we've certainly seen the pitfalls of doing that. Can I get my Phelia in? I can. Are they scared about the Phelia here? If they dismember this, they definitely can't consign to memory this. So if we draw a land, we can get the Yorion, put this in, do a bunch of stuff. Okay, I think that is a mistake here for our opponent that we can hopefully capitalize on. 2 is kind of a number I want to have this on, I think. So I'm going to say no to the first one and yes to the second one. Did not draw the land. We can just kill this in a multitude of ways. Let's just put in our Phantom Blade. Attach it onto one target creature you control. So this, and then kill this. Alright, we have a 3-3 Menace now. We have an uncounterable Solitude. Our opponent's on 3 life. Our Balemurk is threatening to do Balemurk things. We have their next creature answered. I think we've won this one. A little misstep in the second game was awkward. I'm trying to think what happens if our opponent dismembers our Solitude, Stoneforge Mystic. Then we probably just we would have drawn the Solitude and killed the guy anyway. A Death Shadow, you say? Another Death Shadow. Oh, opponent. Oh, opponent. You're going to have a real bad time in a second. Okay, they know we have. They don't know we have the Solitude actually, but yeah, the Solitude kills one and then the other dies. All right, we got the match. I made a little bit of misstep in game 2. I'm not used to really playing Death and Taxes. It's not my sort of jam, but I think we played a pretty good game 1 and 3 there. All right, let's go to round 3. All right, turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic. We're just playing Dead Guy Bale at this point, right? I'll keep this. There is a version of a black-white deck that people are calling Dead Guy Bale, which is quite similar to what is happening here, except it's basically like the mirror image where it's a black deck with white cards. So, you know, it's a black deck with Stoneforges and Plows and stuff instead of being a white deck with Thoughtseize and Bowmasters and stuff. So it leans more into the black side of things. That deck's pretty cool. I think that's had 1 top 8 since Aether Drift as well. Prismatic Vista. We're playing some Fair Magic or we're playing some Omnitel? Let's find out. I wouldn't be surprised to see this go and find an Island of Brainstorm. Looks like that might be what's happening. That's the island, part 1. Alright, I've got the impression our opponent is playing Omnitel. Ooh, it's just a daze. That is a little bit different to what I was expecting. And then nothing with the mana. Curious. So we're just going to replay turn 1 all over again. Right, if our opponent's doing combo stuff, we want to put a clock on them, I think. Let's get this Stoneforge going. It's just a Prismatic Vista. It's kind of a bit of an unusual card to see in like a tempo-y shell. So what do I want here? Do we just want the biggest thing we can throw at our opponent? Probably. Or do we want the Pre-War Formalwear? I'll take Pre-War Formalwear. Because this means we can stick an Orcish Bowmasters and it won't go away. I'm going to play this. I'm going to pay 3 life. So we're holding up Lion Sash as well as Bowmasters. So whichever we think is the better option here. Phelia, Exuberant Shepherd. Right, so we're on sort of like Aether Vial here. I'm just going to snap this off with a Source of Plowshares straight away. Not for you, opponent. A Wasteland, sure. A Barrow Goyf, you say. Okay. What am I putting in here? Is it the Bowmasters? I think we're just going to play around days here and put in the Lion Sash. Let's plow this. Right, I'm glad we kept hammers and plows in. A Force of Will pitching days. Oh, opponent. Oh, opponent, you're not going to like this. Once more with feeling. Alright, our opponent's just scooping up to that. Excellent. So, we're looking at probably some kind of like Esper, mid-rangey, control-y somethings. So we're very good into things like Barragoys because we can actually just blast them off the table. So plows look good here. Thoughtseize looks good to break up our opponent's hand. Aether Vials look fine. Phelia is obviously core part of deck, same with this. White Orchid Phantom, they are playing 3 colours, so we might be able to nab some stuff and get them with that. That seems good. Pre-War Formalwear is okay. I imagine most of their removal is going to be white though, so this isn't going to bring back dead things, but it will bring back stuff off of the Overlord of the Balemurk, and it will bring back things that get countered. Recruiter seems good. Flickerwisp, yeah. I don't think we're changing a thing. I think we're just going back in, having a good time. A few too many Wastelands, perhaps, but these of our can paper over a lot of cracks. I'll keep this. We also get a draw because we're on the draw. So I'm going to believe in this one. We're going to play the Karakas out when we cast a white spell. A Tamiyo. Okay, maybe we're just going to Karakas straight away. Don't want to get Wastelanded. Our opponent did show us Wastelands. We could just get on the Wasteland train right now and see if we can delay our opponent. But they'll be accruing clues. This is a very tough choice. If this was a white source, I would immediately Karakas this creature. I think I'm going to Wasteland and Aether Vial off the Wasteland. And then next turn we can try and interact with this Tamiyo. If they get to go immediately with a Brainstorm, this will obviously be a bit problematic for us. Feels like they're going to Brainstorm straight away. But I just don't think we could expose our only white source to a Wasteland. Just didn't seem like a great idea to me. Polluted Delta. So that's a fetch land to go with a Brainstorm if they wish. Right, we're sort of getting away with it here. I would like to put a counter on my Aether Vial, please. A Phelia. Can play as Karakas. If our opponent cracks this fetch hand, I will Wasteland their Underground Sea. Wait, is that correct? So if we Wasteland this, and they don't float mana in response, what happens? If they float mana in response, we can't Karakas this. Then they just get the other land. I guess we have to let this go. Activate the clue token, and we can just bounce the Tamiyo. There is a Phelia. Interesting. Am I more annoyed by the Phelia or the Tamiyo? I'll get rid of the Phelia for now. I don't want them resetting our Aether Vial. And I will Wasteland away their white source. Makes it harder for them to crack clues because they have less mana. It means their removal colour is off against our deck that wants to play a bunch of creatures. Because if they do manage to flip this Tamiyo, we want to be able to actually pressure it with some of our creatures. And from next turn, we get to start White Orchid Phantoming our opponent, and they're not going to enjoy that very much. There's another white source. Here comes another clue. They didn't flip the Tamiyo last turn, so they would have had to have drawn a Brainstorm this turn. Alright, there is the Brainstorm. Not in love with that for us. I think we probably have to play the Wasteland and try and put 2 threats in play. The Phelia can blink the Tamiyo though. So we could Wasteland them off of Plow mana, and then put in the Phelia. We don't have to make that decision though. We can just play the Wasteland and go to our opponent's turn and see how they tap their mana. So we can hardcast a Phelia and put in a Phantom. A Barrow Goyf. Then we hardcast the Phelia here, and then we put in the Stoneforge Mystic. Put in the Stoneforge. Yes, we go and get the Phantom Blade, I believe. Then we leave this on to 2 counters, considering we have a bunch of 2-drops in our hand. So we'll kill their creature, and we'll throw in a Phantom, I think is the one here. We start pressuring this Tamiyo. They're going to take out our white source, I imagine. If they can remove our Aether Vial and take out our white source, then they have the game. We really need to attack this Tamiyo, though. I'm putting in the Phantom, I put in the Sash, or putting in the Stoneforge. I think it's the Phantom, because that's just a card that we're going to struggle to cast anyway. We'll target their white source. So they can obviously just float mana and draw cards. It's going to be our turn 5 without having drawn a land yet, though. Aether Vial putting in a shift. Do we go up to 3 so we can do Recruit of the Guard stuff? I don't think so. I think we leave it on 2. If we draw a land... We did not draw a land. Why would we draw a land? Okay. Attacking here. Attack all creatures at Tamiyo. This will deal it 2 damage, so it doesn't get to draw the whole deck this turn. This has Menace, this has Flying. So this failure is going to blink away our Aether Vial and reset the clock on that. Which means I think we need to White Orchid Phantom more than anything else here. Although if we go Stoneforge Mystic and draw a land, that's a really good spot for us. I think we don't have to put anything in now. If I knew I was drawing Flickerwisp, then I might have done things differently here. Might have gone to 3. We'll see. So they're going to attack with this. Well, they're going to flicker here. If they flicker our Aether Vial, then we can just put in a first striker and kill their guy. Black mana. No. Blue mana. Can I first strike down your little puppy? An Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. Ping in my face. I will kill your little puppy. Still going upstairs instead of getting a brainstorm back. Right, we have our Aether Vial. Yeah, so we'll start taking you up again. Pre-War Formalwear. Right, we're going to go to attacks. Menace means they have to send up 2 things underneath it. So we're going to put 2 damage guaranteed on the Tamiyo. So we're just playing this weird little sub-game of Don't Let the Tamiyo Pop. Which feels like a 90s kids board game, perhaps. Don't let the Tamiyo pop. Alright. They just want to trade damage backwards and forwards. Obviously, we're not trading damage into their life total. We're just trying to trade it into this Tamiyo. But we don't care about the Orcish Bowmasters. And once this hits 2 counters, then we get to actually do some stuff. We have a Wasteland for this. I don't know if we immediately crack it off. We need to see what we're drawing before we consider doing that. Because if we draw a white source, we can put in a Stoneforge and activate the Stoneforge and attack our opponent with a Kaldra. Alright. No? Look like they were about to play something and they decided against it. I want to go to combat first. Be my guest. Let's activate this Aether Vial. Just keep him honest. Yes, I'd very much like another counter on my Aether Vial. Prismatic Vista. Okay. Let's get a white source. Let's activate this. Put in a Stoneforge Mystic. We get consigned here. We are getting consigned. Okay. Go to attacks. Attack all creatures at Tamiyo. I'm going to chip it down a bunch there. Do I need to wasteland my opponent here? I don't think I do. I think what we're actually going to do is cast this Lion Sash. And just have more permanents that can attack. You can crack that clue. I think there was probably a turn earlier where our opponent needed to get back a brainstorm with a Tamiyo. But it kind of ended up in this like sunk cost fallacy of trying to delay things. But we don't care about the little incremental damage our opponent's doing here. So it's not like this was a good tempo play. I think he just needed to try and make something of it. It's going to be a Teferi. A Wasteland, sure. You can Wasteland my Wasteland if you wish. There is a Teferi. What would you like to bounce? There's not great options for you there. Okay, sure. And Tamiyo goes up again. Holds 2 Plowshares. I would like to see if our Aether Vial resolves. Do you have a daze here? I did not. Go to attacks. This at Tamiyo, this at Tamiyo, this at Tamiyo. Am I willing to trade this for one guy? I think so. Yeah, we're just going to send everything at Tamiyo here. Like, this whole game is basically about the Tamiyo right now. Oh wait, the Stoneforge becomes a 0-2. And this becomes a 0-1, doesn't it? That was loose. I was figuring them all as 1 power guys and they're attacking, but that's not true because these 2 aren't. We do get to grow the Sash here, but we can, if this Stoneforge dies... Oh, okay, that's not a bad one to have. I was going to say, if the Stoneforge dies, we get to Pre-War Formalwear it back, so it's not actually that bad. What are you up to here? Are you going to double block this Menace guy, maybe? We don't get to plow this because of the Teferi, in case you're wondering. Right, so we chunk that guy down a fair bit, and then we will plow this in our main phase. Tamiyo is irritating me somewhat. We'll eventually get through it. It's just an irritant right now. The Teferi can bounce something soon, so we would like to stop that from happening. Sure, we don't get to play mana, we just have Aether Vials. We've drawn 1 land since our opening hand, I think. Incredible scenes. So we have 3 damage coming into Tamiyo. So we are netting damage every turn. Shadowy Backstreet. I would like to have a Shadowy Backstreet, please. Another land? It is another land. Ooh, that's quite exciting for us. Right, crack in. An Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, our opponent's got some pretty good rips over there. Are they going to finish off our Stoneforge Mystic? Looks like they are. Next turn, we can Pre-War Formalwear and bring back a Stoneforge Mystic if we wish. Yep, we'll kill the Bowmasters itself. We can also Pre-War Formalwear is only cards in your graveyard, isn't it? Yeah, so we don't get to bring back their Bowmasters. Alright. We need our opponent to just brick for one turn. That gives us something going on. We can Flickerwisp and like blink the Tamiyo. A Brainstorm. Going up with Tamiyo again. Sure. Damage coming in. Tick up our Aether Vial. So what are we doing here? We can Recruit with the Guard for a 2-drop, which is pretty solid here. I don't hate that at all. So we can just go and get an Orcish Bowmasters here if we wish. And then we can use the Orcish Bowmasters to take out their Bowmasters and make their Teferi worse. So we attack the Tamiyo again with our small guys. So now this is just parity. But we can activate abilities at instant speed. So we can actually have an instant speed play underneath the Teferi here. A Swords 2 Plowshares. Alright, opponent. Just stop ripping all the time, please. Thought we were friends. Okay. So we put in the Bowmasters. We kill their Bowmasters. We make the Teferi bounce really awkward if they want to do that. They can't Tamiyo ultimate into a Bowmaster. They're just going up with the Teferi here. Just put in the Bowboys. Take out their Bowboys. They have their own Bowboys. Okay. I will put a counter on this. They have no cards in hand, which is good for us, obviously. We draw for turn. An Overlord of the Balemurk. We could definitely play this and then blink it, but then what does that actually do for us right now? I think the better play here is to cast this Pre-War Formalwear. Get back the Bowboys. Ping down their Bowboys. And then I can blink out this Orc Army token and attack the Tamiyo. Or I can blink out this Pre-War Formalwear, get another creature back. Or I can blink out this Recruiter of the Guard. So we get 2 points on the Tamiyo if we blink out. We could just blink out the Tamiyo. That is an option we're allowed to do here. I think we could just attack the Teferi for 1 and pass here. So we have to work out, are we playing around our opponent having access to a consign here? Consign our Flickerwisp is pretty annoying. They'd put 1 card on top. So I think it has to be something proactive, because this board is not favourable for them right now. Right, they're up in a Tamiyo, up in a Teferi. Go to the end step. I will deploy the Flickerwisp. And what am I going to flicker away here? I think I'm just going to flicker the Tamiyo and turn it into a guy. Much easier for us to deal with in that situation. Because we have lots of mana, I'm going to... Well, not lots of mana, we have 3 mana, but I'm going to work it towards the Orion now. Another Flickerwisp. Intriguing, for sure. Am I just casting this Flickerwisp straight up? Our opponent's got 1 card and Force of Will mana open. I think we cast this pre-combat and see if it resolves. I don't know why they would keep Force of Will on top with the Surveil on the Undersea Sewers, though. So we can just blink out their Orc Army token and just send everything at Teferi here. Or we can blink out one of our card advantage engines. But I think we're fine for that at the moment. I think I'm just going to get rid of the Orc Army, try and remove our opponent's ability to play the game. Just get rid of all their permanents that are doing stuff. What were they kept on top? Another Orcish Bowmasters, maybe? Go to attacks. I'm going to send everything at Teferi, just make sure it goes. Not this because it's going to get shrunk actually, but everything else. So there's still the Tamiyo is still around the trigger on it. The Tamiyo of theirs will be coming back, but they're going to have to find a way of flipping it and plussing it, and then obviously we have a pretty impressive board state. Is this a single plow? It is a single plow. But this is 2, 3, 4. So they lose the Teferi. They're drawing off the top. We have a card advantage engine as well as a Yorion waiting in the wings. So we are in a pretty solid spot right now. We need to not get consigned to memory when we do our big Yorion turn. That is the thing to play around here. So they have a card advantage engine themselves. But if this attacks, we block with the Flickerwisp. So they must have a Brainstorm here. They did not. Okay. They were willing to trade that in just for a card. Yeah, our opponent is very much up against the wall. I wouldn't be surprised to see a concession soon. We've just done the grindy Death and Taxes thing. Alright, we've got the match. Going pretty well so far. On to round 4. Right, we're on the play. Our hand is 5 lands. I don't think I can keep that one. Much better hand. Thank you, Mulligan. I think we put back the Prismatic Vista here. So, am I getting a Scrubland or do I want to play on basics? Big decision time. If we get the Scrubland, we're exposed to Wasteland, which could then strip out our ability to play anything. So I think I'm just going to Thoughtseize off of a swamp. It means we will need to find another white source to cast White Orchid Phantom, but every other land in our deck is a white source. Okay, stock up, Cunning Wish, Lauren Revealed, Omniscience, Veil of Summer. Alright, that's a bit scary, isn't it? I think the plan here is to take out the Lauren Revealed and try and strand them on mana. Give them the old Death and Taxes experience. No mana for you. Because that's a very difficult hard hand to punch a hole into. Whereas if we slow them down, maybe our Kaldra Compleat does enough and they die. The Omnitel decks have actually started putting up some reasonable numbers. I think there's 4 Omnitel builds that have top 8 challenges, and there's like another 4 sneak attacks. So stock up has definitely helped those decks out. Alright. These sorts of Plowshares are completely useless in our hand, but obviously we didn't know that when we kept it. Go Gadget, Stoneforge Mystic. Give me a big clock to win the game with. That's all I need you to do. Kaldra Compleat, please. Here is what we are doing. This is sometimes what you find when you're playing Death and Taxes into a combo deck, is you can end up in a situation where it's just, can I just keep sending my damage through before they kill me? Ooh, I like the Bowmasters, but I think the Kaldra Compleat is just more important. We need to get our clock in. This is going to be something our opponent doesn't have much to interact with, maybe like an Otawara or a Sink into Stupor. Obviously they have a Cunning Wish, can go find an answer if they feel the need to do that. Okay, they found another Lauren Revealed. So they're going to be able to cast a Stock Up next turn. Stock Up doesn't get hit by Bowmasters, another reason why it's not worth playing it out there. If they just show and tell here, then I think we're just completely cooked. It's a Stock Up, okay. So we've got another turn. Okay, we've got 6 damage coming in now. I don't believe hitting our opponent's mana makes any difference here. Then we're just sending in the clowns. Maybe our opponent has to cast a cantrip and we maybe get them a little bit. Another stock up would be nice here. Do that instead of killing us, please. Impulse. Okay. So while they have this green mana up, the Veil of Summer is something that can stop our Orcish Bowmasters. So we do lose 1 point of damage by waiting to see if they're casting more cantrips. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So maybe that 1 point of damage will end up costing us the game. Or maybe not. Bowmasters, get in there. Get in there and make this all about you, Bowmasters. Okay. So I have a forcible for this anyway. What are they pitching? Presumably... Oh, it's a stock up. That's not a bad one to take. Okay. How do we add more power to this board? Probably not using a land. So I'm going to turn this into a plains so that we have a very, very almost non-existent marginal thinning. It's like 0 point something something. 0.0% or something stupid like that. It's not really going to make much of a difference. But you never know. A Karakas. That is a playable Magic the Gathering card. But probably not right now. We bash for 6, put our opponent to 2. So the issue with Karakas here is our opponent is going to Omniscience Emrakul, so it just doesn't do anything. Alright, let's take out their land here. I don't think this is going to make a difference. But we're just putting more... Alright, so they're getting a free Brainstorm Shuffle off of us. Yikes. Alright, opponent. If we have more permanents in play, though, we can sacrifice all of our permanents to an Emrakul trigger and survive. So their deck basically can't win without the card Show and Tell. Unless they have a ridiculous amount of mana and just hard cast Omniscience, which doesn't happen very often. So there's always a chance they just never have it. Now, the combination of like all these cantrips and stock up and impulse means that they're quite likely to have it. But we're making them have to have it on turn 5. And we forced the stock up out of their hand earlier. So, you know, we're doing all we can here. Show and Tell. So they put in the Omniscience. They cast the Cunning Wish. Cunning Wish gets them shared summons, which tutors them an Emrakul. And then they can attack us, and if we bounce it, they just replay it for free, and then we just die. Yeah, that is the game. Not a great matchup, this one. So the Swords of Plowshares look pretty poor, so they can get out of there. Deafening Silence has some pretty useful text. How do I feel about Containment Priest? It's okay into the show and tell side of things, but that's about it. Disruptor Flute though, naming show and tell, buys us additional turn. Alright, I would like these 5 cards, which means we need to make one more cut. I like Solitude here because it can actually answer Emrakul, so we'll keep that. Phelia is part of our engine. We don't need any graveyard removal from Lion Sash, so that's not one that I'm really interested in. The Pre-War Formalwear can obviously get back stuff that's countered. That's kind of important. The White Orchid Phantom is just a 2/2 beta. That's fine. The Witch Enchanter is very, very good here. I want to keep that. Yeah, I think it's the Lion Sash that goes. I don't think we want any other tools. We could have a Containment Priest for just in case they just have to show and tell in an Emrakul. But we have 4 Karakas for that. And we've got the Solitude. I don't think that's the way to do it. And that can sometimes jam us up. Because we're like, okay, we need to play this so that we're attacking our opponent. But oh no, now we can't do our cool stuff. So I think the wheels might come off on this particular round. But we've had a pretty good run so far. What are we doing here? It's very slow. Like, turn 2, Phelia. Skyclave is literally just a beta here. I don't think this is... I think we need to mulligan something that has... Okay, this is better. So quicker clock. We get rid of this Prismatic Vista. Oh, they mulligan to 5 cards. That's good news for us. Maybe this time we can get in there with our Stoneforge. Scrubland into Deafening Silence, please. This also gives us a permanent that we can keep exiling with Phelia to grow it. It's not nothing. And it stops our opponent from being able to show and tell and then do something omniscient. So it buys us a turn to maybe blow it up with a Witch Enchanter or something. Thoughtseize. Is that better than anything else going on here? Or do we just want to get the clock? I don't think our opponent can afford to Force of Will us, considering they mulligan so much. So I'm going to play this Stoneforge, get our clock going, and then next turn is we attack for 5 and we Thoughtseize our opponent. Which will ideally be the turn before they get to show and tell. Now if they show and tell this turn off of like Lotus Petal or something, then sure, that sucks for us. But, alright, we've just got this one ponder, so I think our play is correct. Like, traditionally speaking, I prefer to get pressure in play and then disrupt if I'm trying to play that tempo game plan, which is what we have to do against our opponent's deck here. Did they find another land? They did. They didn't get to cast any other spells here, though. Let's put in this Kaldra. Let's get us smashies. Here comes your little germ token right in your face. We could have done this slightly cleaner so that we could fetch a plains off of this, but we have to get a Scrubland now. I don't think our opponent's going to have anything for our mana base. I don't think that's a good way to approach this matchup from our opponent's side, but we could have respected it and not cost us anything. A Force of Will. Okay, opponent. That's a little bit scary. They know they can't just Force of Will... they can't just show and tell Emrakul because we have a Karakas. So it needs to be show and tell Omniscience Emrakul in their hand. Or, you know, Cunning Wish instead of the Emrakul. Or they could do it with a stock up and just keep digging. Okay, it's just a stock up here. Stoneforge Mystic. Back for some damages here. This is 5, 6, 7 damage if we just play the Stoneforge. So I think it's better to play the Stoneforge here than it is to play anything else. Because Stoneforge can get us Phantom Blade as well. If our opponent has a spooky creature we need to deal with. But we've got lethal damage on board. Our opponent can't do an Omniscience line because they would have to go to our turn because the show and tell is going to get sort of bracketed by this Deafening Silence. They're not going to be able to do anything else. A show and tell. If this is an Omniscience, they get to cast the Emrakul afterwards, which is obviously not ideal for us. I think we're putting the Phelia here. Yeah, so it's Omniscience. They can cast the Emrakul if they have exactly Emrakul, but they can't cast... okay, so now they just have... Can we take 6 permanents away from us here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not a great choice here, is it? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has to be the Deafening Silence here, right? So we need to be able to crack back for lethal. So there's no point trying to bounce it with Karakas. We just have to hope they have nothing here and we have lethal on the crackback. But now they get to just cast all of their cantrips. And stock up finds them 2 more, like, stock up or cantrips, which then finds them more. And eventually they'll be able to cast another Emrakul and we die. Yep, horrible matchup, I think. And we got absolutely bodied. Alright, that's 4 rounds down. We're 3-1 though, so the 4-1 is available. And we've been having some pretty good games, to be fair. Let's see if I can put together a 4-1. Our opponent is a legendary Dredge player. We do not beat Dredge. We have a piece of Graveyard Hate though, so we'll keep it. This is about as good as it gets for us. So we got Stoneforge into Lion Sash, but the chances are they're just going to Cabal Therapy it away from us. Alright, Dredge confirmed, I think. Yeah, so our opponent is someone who's been playing Dredge a very long time, and even in the dark days of Dredge being unplayable, you just got to respect that. A real deck expert right there. And a lovely person as well. I met them at a paper tournament. Alright, so they're getting a Narcomoeba back here. They got Cabal Therapy. They have 1 Bridge from Below and a Poxwalkers. So they could Cabal Therapy us. I don't think a Lion Sash is going to cut it. Am I willing to try and hide what I'm playing here? I think our opponent can probably work it out here. I don't think we're winning this game is what I'm saying. I think I'm just going to concede this game. Because our opponent's just going to be dredging or go Grave Trolls at this point. They've got the Poxwalker stuff going on now, so they can Cabal Therapy as much as they like. So let's just go to the sideboard. I would like some Grafdigger's Cages. I would like some Fairy Macabres. I would like some Wrath of the Skies. If they get a bunch of zombies and pass, I'd like to be able to do something about that. Containment Priest also seems pretty good here. I don't particularly like Mindbreak Trap, and I don't think Deafening Silence is that useful. It can stop some of their stuff. So this is like in the maybe pile, and Disruptor Flute is just too hard to name the right thing. They have many, many options. So, what do I like here? I think Aether Vial is too slow. Let's put these Deafening Silences up at the top for now. I think Aether Vial is just too slow in this matchup. We don't really want it. We want just cards that actually do stuff, and we're just going to be casting our spells. The time that it takes us to come online is just too long. Kaldra. Well, let's move all our equipment. So obviously Lion Sash we're keeping, so that can stay on there. White Orchid Phantom, they might not have any basics, so this might just be a Wasteland, so it can stop their like following up turns. Flickerwisp can take out some zombies, which isn't the most exciting thing, but it's a thing we can do. Fan Blaze not the most exciting thing either. Still looking for 3 cuts here. Solitude and Plow, obviously very good. Gets rid of Poxwalkers forever. Thoughtseize on the play is okay, but then it definitely loses some merit on the draw. Skyclave Apparition. I like Orcish Bowmasters because I can play it, ping itself, and it dies. I think the Phantom Blade can go here. Pre-War Formalwear is something that we can get back, but what are we getting back with it? No. It obviously doesn't go with all the graveyard stuff we're trying to work with here. So that means we are just trying to remove 1 more card here. Probably an Overlord of Balemurk. It's kind of a slow thing for what we're trying to accomplish here. Although it does dig for the Fairy Macabre, so maybe we do have to keep that one actually. Recruit the Guard finds Fairy Macabre. Maybe it's the Skyclave is the weakest thing here. The Kaldra, like if they make a big guy, we can at least have a Kaldra that can handle it. If they just like reanimate a troll or something. I suspect we're going to die here. We're an 80 card deck trying to find a handful of sideboard cards in our opener. No Graveyard Hate. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay, we have a very good piece of Graveyard Hate. We just need to get to turn 2. So we keep. I think we're bottoming. So the Overlord of Balemurk gets back the Containment Priest if something happens to it. So that's something I'm interested in. Solitude is probably better than Swords to Plowshares here. So I guess we go something like this and then we can set up our engine as well. Although Phelia and Containment Priest aren't the best of friends, as it turns out. So I think we start off on this so we have a Surveil land. We just need to get to turn 2 and hope that our Containment Priest works. I suspect our opponent might have something like a Firestorm out of their sideboard which can kill our creatures. So discard X cards, deal X damage to X targets. Underground Sea. How bad is this going to be for us? Lion's Eye Diamond. 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, so they might be able to dredge their entire deck this turn. Alright, Cabal Therapy. What are you going to name? Name's Brainstorm. So us conceding in the first game has really helped us out there. Because they thought we were on the control build. Especially since I don't really play many decks like this. Sure, I'll have this. This can go and find a Lion Sash down the stretch. So they know we have this Containment Priest. So I think we just jam it out now. And hopefully this will be the whole ball game. So Failure is probably going to be a white card to go with Solitude. Because it's not great with Containment Priest. Like, blinking your opponent's things, sure. Blinking your own things, not so much. Right, I'm going to attack with this Containment Priest, and I'm going to blow up their 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds. So, generally with Dredge, you just have to interact with everything you can as soon as it comes up, because they're going to strip your hand at some point. But hopefully this Containment Priest is doing the work for us. Getting rid of these Lion's Eye Diamonds means when they eventually get rid of the Containment Priest, they're not going to have as many resources to like ruin our day with. So they're not going to be able to just go like, okay, I'm just going to cast Breakthrough and also 2 Faithless Lootings in the same turn after pitching my hand and just dredge my whole deck. A Golgari Thug. It's a guy. I think we get the Balemurk in this turn, don't we? No cards to get back. So when this dies, put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So this will just loop and keep this card on top. Is that okay for us? I don't think they're going to block with this. Just going to get rid of this Thug while we can. Just interact with everything while we have the chance to. Cephalid Colosseum, if they get enough stuff in their graveyard, can try and find spells. A Poxwalkers. Okay, I would have rather have killed this one, if I'm being perfectly honest. I got baited quite hard there. I'll take this Wasteland. I will deploy this Stoneforge Mystic. I will get this Kaldra Compleat, because that will beat what our opponent's doing. And then I will cast this Grafdigger's Cage, so they can't flash back this Cabal Therapy anymore. Alright, we managed to draw all the graveyard hate. So we could have got a Lion Sash and played it extra cautiously here, but we have 2 pieces of graveyard hate. We just need to get over the hump before our opponent can answer both of them. I don't think they can win whilst either of these is in play, and they require different answers for each of them. Coming in, not coming in with a Poxwalker. Okay, this is a Surveil land. This is a big Kaldra. Death Touch doesn't matter because it's indestructible. I don't think we need to wasteland our opponent yet. I would like to work towards a Yorion or a hardcast Solitude. Yorion is not really going to be blinking many things. We can blink non-token creatures. Okay, so they've got a Golgari Thug. Let's get our Surveil. Sorry, yeah, with our Yorion, we can blink our non-creature permanents. Oh, we already milled over the Shadowy Backstreet, I guess. Okay, I just have a Scrubland. Okay, Friction Germ Token, in you come. And then we have Surprise Lion Sash, which our opponent is not really going to like. Okay, we've basically drawn all of our cards apart from the Fairy Macabre. Alright, we're going to see into the Floodmoor here. So we're going to bounce this, I suppose. So we're going to activate this Stoneforge, put in this Lion Sash. Oh, it's a creature, isn't it? It doesn't work with Containment Priest. Oh my god, that's such a loose play again. I keep forgetting it's a creature. Oh dear, oh dear. That is a big punt here. We should have just played it in our main phase. I was trying to be techie and I just absolutely got bodied by my own hubris there. So they can sacrifice this Poxwalkers to Cabal Therapy away our Grafdigger's Cage. They get their Poxwalkers back. And now we're going to lose it because of it. Ugh. Containment Priest. Why am I so bad at having you on my team? We won that game. Okay. Yeah, that was really loose. We should have just played the Lion Sash. Because I was going to exile the Cabal Therapy so we can take away our Grafdigger's Cage. But ugh. Okay. Don't want to do anything differently. I don't think so. I think we just go in and undoubtedly misplay around our own Containment Priest again. It's good to have a hobby, I suppose. Final game of the league. What does our hand do? Loses. Okay, so we need a better hand than this. We have some turn 3 graveyard hate. We have a Thoughtseize, which is unlikely to do anything. We need something better than this. Okay, this is about what we need here. We're going to get rid of some fetch lands because 1 point of damage here and there might actually end up being relevant in certain situations. A Lion's Eye Diamond, Scalding Tarn, and pass. Here is the cage. Uh-oh. Does our opponent have counter magic of some description? Some dredge decks do play it. Okay, they're just getting the Otherworldly Gaze off. Getting some more information about what they need to do here. Okay, yeah. So they're getting the Narcomoeba, which they wouldn't get once the Grafdigger's Cage resolves. But it's going to be hard for them to beat Grafdigger's Cage. Now, they do have a 1-1 beaten down. That will eventually win the game. But I believe we should be alright with some Stoneforge action. Alright, the beatdowns will continue. They do have basic lands as well, which is not necessarily something I was expecting. I'm going to get the Lion Sash this time. It should be enough to beat what our opponent's putting down. And it just gives us a little bit of extra security. Careful Study. Perfectly designed Magic the Gathering card. Love it. I say it every time I see it. I just do adore the design of this. So simple. Alright, there is 2 Golgari Grave Trolls, and now they're going to be dredging. Are they going to be dredging though? Because the dredging has some problems because there is a Grafdigger's Cage in play. So they might... Okay, so they're just drawing and discarding there. I thought that might be the case. Alright, we'll take some damage from Narcomoebas. Let's play the Sash here. Attack for 1. Am I getting rid of anything with the Sash? I don't think I have to yet. I will take this Poxwalkers, I think, at the end step. Another Lion's Eye Diamond. Alright, you're certainly going to have mana there. Faithless Looting. I don't believe they're dredging here. Yeah, they're drawing ordinary cards still. We're going to pop out their graveyard. I think this is going to be pretty key to how this game plays out. Okay. So we're unlikely to be able to take all their dredges here. So we're just going to exile their Ox of Agonis, I think. No, it's the Poxwalker. Scrubland. So we can go to attacks here. 1, 2, 3, 4 dredges. So we can't get rid of all the dredges. I'm going to get rid of this. I guess we do want to get rid of some creatures though to pump our guy. It's permanent cards, isn't it? We're just going to do enough to make sure that we're clocking here. We're just going to hold up this mana. No dredge still. Another Faithless Looting. This isn't going to be dredging. It's just going to be drawing regular cards, looking for Into the Floodmoor. A Bridge from Below. Okay. That is a permanent card because it is an enchantment. Not an enchantment you see in play very often, but it is an enchantment. Get rid of this bridge. Let's get rid of... Start working through the dredges, I think. Light Source. That's okay with me. Okay, we can get rid of their dredges, I think, now. Alright, we have them dead on the next turn. Obviously, they can just start chump blocking. So they're not quite dead to that. But they've gone through nearly half their deck and haven't found one of their presumably 4 Into the Floodmoors. A Breakthrough, X equals 1. So they're going to draw 4 cards here. So we can just kill them with an Orcish Bowmaster. I think that is worth doing here. Our opponent is basically trying to keep 1 card in hand so they have an Into the Floodmoor as an option. But this will ping them for 1 and then they'll draw 4 cards and it'll ping them for another 4. We got there. Alright. So we finished with a very respectable 4-1. And that was with a couple of little mistakes that I made here and there because I'm certainly not a Death and Taxes player, I'll tell you that much. It's really not my forte at all. But the deck felt pretty sweet. I enjoyed it a lot more than previous Death and Taxes decks I've played in the past. I think the Overlord of the Balemurk is pretty sweet. So let's get into this deck. 4-1 record, only losing to a combo matchup that felt horrible. We managed to beat a combo matchup that did, well, 2 combo matchups that are probably quite horrible as well, in Dredge and Oops, because they go underneath us most of the time. But yeah, let's talk about the list. So the Phelia plus Balemurk combo is obviously very good. We never really got that up and running, but there were times that we threatened it. It was an option that we could play towards. It just gives us this really strong late game inevitability. And if you're a creature deck playing behind a deck that's attacking you with a 5/5 that draws a Solitude every turn, like, what are you supposed to do? It's horrible. I've been on the receiving end of that, and it's not a good place to be. Stoneforge Mystic remains a very good utility piece that can get some nice big beatdown, but also the Phantom Blade was very useful today, so that was nice. The Aether Vial, also pretty decent. Like, obviously our deck is going to struggle against like turn 1 combo decks. That's why we're running the Thoughtseize, but we're a Yorion deck, so it's 4 Thoughtseize in a deck of 80 cards. It's not very reliable. Sometimes you will draw it and it will help though, and you know, it's a reasonable card to have just anyway. It has a strong chance of trading 1 for 1 most of the time. Obviously you do sometimes get into situations where you're top decking and you draw the Thoughtseize, but our deck's supposed to be good in the late game top decking anyway, so we can afford to have a bad top deck. So I don't mind it. I think you do need to have some of these sorts of tools, really. And I think for the foreseeable future, Dead Guy Bale version of Death and Taxes is probably the way to go. Obviously, the full-on Dead Guy Bale deck is a lot more towards black than this. But I think this engine is what makes this deck tick at the moment. Like, we have all of our little tricksy bits. We can pitch cards to Solitude to make sure we're, you know, surviving early doors. But then we can just accelerate out with this blinking package. Aether Vial is a weird card to me. It's very good in these sort of slow matchups, like when we're playing against like Death Shadow and stuff like that. But when we're trying to jam into any of these combo decks, it feels really bad. And the majority of the decks in Legacy right now are combo decks. I think it's 51 or 52% combo deck. So maybe Aether Vial shouldn't be in our I guess it is in our main deck though, just because it does the things that we need it to do. I don't think we can replace it with any of these cards from the sideboard really. So it's just kind of a card that is good to board out a lot of the time because it's so bad against these like low to the ground combo decks. Even though being able to double spell on like turn 3 can be quite important. I just don't think it's worth it in those combo matchups, as you saw. But again, we just board out when that's the situation. You can even turn it into more hand disruption if you really wanted. But the mana advantage from this is pretty good, and this is part of our late game loop with Yorion, because we have a Karakas in play, an Aether Vial on 5, and a Yorion, and we can just cycle the Yorion through every turn and just get all of our card advantage of like Balemurk and Recruiter and Stoneforge, Bowmaster, Orchid. You know, we just get to really, really push the late game. Now, there are obviously late game decks that go over the top of us, and that deck is basically just Cloud Post is the main one that I can think of. That deck goes over the top of everyone because it's hard casting Emrakuls, which is not a bad way to go. But generally speaking, we're going to be really good into all these tempo decks. So at the moment, the best deck in the format is Blue-Black Reanimator, and that deck is something we can interact with. Like, our White Removal is pretty decent into it. They're still going to have like some draws that are going to be difficult for us to beat. But we do have main deck Graveyard Hate we can find, and they're a graveyard matchup that's a little bit slower, and they tend to sort of want to play a bit more ponderously. And if we can try and remove their big scary monsters, then they're just playing a tempo game. If we can get through the card advantage of Atraxa and Archon with our Swords and Solitudes, then we can probably pick up the pieces. But our deck is pretty good at preying on the second best deck at the moment, which is Blue-Black Tempo. Now, the reason Blue-Black Tempo is the second best deck is because it's probably one of the worst matchups for Blue-Black Reanimator. So being good against that deck means that that deck is seeing a lot of play and doing quite well. And we are pretty good into it, which then means that we are in a little spot where we can play some Death and Taxes in Legacy, and it feels pretty good. We're going to have a bad time into some of these combo decks for sure, but the Blue-Black Tempo deck is good at keeping down some of the things that we don't necessarily want to face all the time. I think in the past week, Blue-Black Tempo has definitely gotten more top 8 finishes than any other deck. It's really had a good week because it's just been preying on all these Blue-Black Reanimator decks. So maybe now's the time to sleeve up some Death and Taxes and prey on those tempo decks. Also, I would say that Death and Taxes is a better deck in paper if you're going to a paper tournament, because people, generally speaking, when they go to paper tournaments, are a lot less likely to play these like all-in turn 1 combo decks and stuff that go underneath you, because people, you know, they want to play a game that's more worth their time being there. So you see a lot more people trying to play control and tempo decks in paper, generally speaking. So yeah, I think we had a pretty good showing today. And it's nice to be in a spot where Death and Taxes has some viability in the meta, which is cool. It has actually won some challenges as well, including this one that was won by Carroz, which is why we're playing this list. All right, thank you so much for joining me here. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. And goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.